We are getting ready for potentially the worst, and so we've got one of our best. We've got Brock Davenport from Fire Rescue. He's a captain. How you doing, man?
How you doing?
Appreciate you coming out today.
No problem.
You know, we're at the end of August, beginning of September, and this is really getting into the peak of hurricane season. So we want you to be prepared. You're going to get us prepared, right?
Try to, anyway.
All right, what's the first step people need to do to get prepared for hurricanes?
Well, first of all, we recommend putting together a kit for your family that includes some items that you'll be needing for about 2 or 3 days following a hurricane if one was to pass through the area.
And that's really just in case the power goes out, you know, something happens, you can't get out to the store, can't get around town, right?
Correct. Also, if you have damage to your building or damage to your vehicle, something like that that would cause you not to be able to leave, and also no power being to the residents anymore.
Okay, what are some of the things that you'd put into here?
We recommend having some type of radio that has the weather feature on it, also AM, FM, that has multiple power types. This one in particular has a crank that you can use if the batteries were to wear out, but we also recommend having a dual source. This one also has battery and also can be plugged in as well.
That's really cool. I've actually got a flashlight that does that as well. It runs on a rechargeable battery, or you can crank it up.
Correct.
And really handy when the power goes out.
Be a great item to have in your kit.
Okay, so you got that.
Some other things, just some basic medical supplies that you could put in your kit for cuts and bruises, abrasions, or anything like that. Band-aids, gauze pads, alcohol prep, stuff like that. Hand sanitizer. If we don't have running water, you need to be able to use some hand sanitizer to keep your hands clean. Also, medications that you or your family members would need for instance, if you weren't able to stay in your house and you had to go to a shelter, some medications for at least 2 or 3 days worth in case you weren't able to get back in your house.
Now, you mentioned the medications. It's probably a good idea to have some kind of medical plan if you've got special needs, because I know my kids have asthma, so I've got their asthma rescue plans with all the different kinds and all the different steps and the dosages and things like that. So we've gone and taken those and photocopied them. So we keep one regularly in the kitchen, the other is in the kit, so we don't have to worry about where's that other stuff, we got to find it. So we keep our plan together with our other stuff.
That's a great idea. Having all your family members' medicines, what they may be allergic to, medical history in case you have an emergency during that time where they have to go to an emergency room or a doctor's office that you're not familiar with. That would be a great item to put in your kit as well.
Now, you got some water over here.
Yeah, and we recommend a gallon a day per person in your family to be stored, and again, for 2 or 3 days worth in case you don't have running water or the water system somehow becomes contaminated during the disaster.
Now, one of the things that I'd heard many years ago, back when I was doing the weather, is you have not only the drinkable water, but just in case something happens with the water before the storm hits, fill up your bathtub.
You can do that as well for cooking purposes, to have it in there for sanitation purposes and stuff like that.
That was the big thing, so you could always scoop it out and flush the toilet. If you didn't have the water coming back in, you could just scoop it out and have it that way.
Correct.
So we want to keep those separate.
Oh, yeah,
but I wanted
exactly.
to mention that because that's another thing. You obviously wouldn't fill up the tub every day, just waiting just in case something happens a week from now or a month from now.
That's right.
Okay, and you got the little individual ones for on the go, right?
Yeah, well, it's easy to store in your car. You can change it out regularly. You don't want to leave water in there for years and years and not change it out. But if for some reason you had to leave in a hurry with your family members, you could go ahead and put a case or two of bottled water in the car. That way you don't have to worry about getting it out of the house if something was to happen where you had to leave in a hurry.
Now, you got food here as well.
We want to make sure that we have food that doesn't have to be cooked. Peanut butter is a good example of that. We have some canned food.
Jonathan's favorite, Vienna sausages.
That's right. Stuff that you don't have to worry about heating up, that you don't have to worry about cooking, because in times of disaster there may not be electricity or cooking a heating source.
Of course, if you got canned food,
you need something to open it with.
That's right. That's the big thing I think people probably forget more than anything else. They get everything together and then the disaster comes, and how do you open it up if it's not a pop top? Make sure you've got one of these, non-powered. Well, human-powered, I guess, right?
That's right.
Well, wrist action.
Something else, if you have candles and stuff in your kit, you may need a lighter as well, or a pack of matches. Some flashlights, several of them. and then make sure that you have plenty of extra batteries to supply whatever types of flashlights or radios that you have in your kit.
Okay, now this is good for humans,
Right.
but a lot of folks have pets.
That's right.
You need to think of them too, right?
And you can go ahead and just like we do, we think of them as family, go ahead and add in a gallon of water a day for them as well for 2 or 3 days, and that will give you an adequate amount for them to have, plus pack some of their food away. One thing you need to be careful of packing food away is you want to put it in some type of an airtight and watertight container so that rodents and stuff can't get into it, and then when you get there and you have an emergency, then all your food's contaminated. So you want to make sure it's in something sturdy that animals can't get into if you're storing it in your car or in a place in their house.
Okay, now we've got our kit. We've got this ready to go. I guess we need a plan for where to go. Do we need to go? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's good to have, especially we depend so much on cell phones nowadays. Well, what happens if cell phones aren't available? I wouldn't probably remember half of the telephone numbers I have in there if my cell phone wasn't working. So we have to assume that we're not going to have these luxuries. So have important contact numbers written down on a sheet of paper and keep it in your kit as well.
That's a good idea. Now, if you've got to go someplace, though, you should probably know where the shelters are.
Know where your shelters are. They should be broadcast on our website here in Greenville. Also, the website for the county. Emergency management will have shelter locations on there as well.
And it's important to know, though, that the Red Cross doesn't just open these all up at the same time. They kind of scale them up and down, just like you scale your forces up and down depending on the severity and projected severity of a storm. So the shelters aren't all going to open at the same time, but the Red Cross website's also going to have great information about what shelters, where, and when. And of course, having this radio is going to help because they're going to tell you what shelters are open too, right?
Correct.
Okay. What else do we need to think of?
Well, some other things that you may need just for comfort measures. You may need a pillow or a special blanket or something like that if you're going to be staying in a shelter. Some basic toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, enough for several days. Stuff to make it, even though you're not going to be at home, make it more homey.
Probably also want to have some things to do. So maybe some playing cards and some games, especially if you've got kids, right?
Exactly. And remember, if we're short on batteries, you're not going to want to use the kind that have to be plugged in or have to have batteries. So maybe some old-fashioned coloring books and maybe word cross or stuff like that.
Good time to have the books and the educational stuff. Yeah. Now, I noticed that Greenville Fire Rescue has gone to the steps of preparing these emergency preparedness guides. I can say it eventually. Emergency preparedness guides, right? Where can people pick these up?
You can pick these up at any of our fire stations throughout the city. We have 6. Also, if you're downtown, you can pick it up at the headquarters station during the day. They'll be available for you to stop in and pick up anytime. We'll be happy to go over any of these as well with you if you had any questions in particular.
Do you think you have enough that maybe we can get these at City Hall as well, pass those out?
Sure.
Okay. It's got a lot of great information in here talking about the different kinds of emergencies, from thunderstorms and floods, hurricanes, tornadoes. All right, if people have questions, they can always contact you guys, right?
That's correct. 329-4390 is the headquarters station's telephone number, and you can get in touch with any of the local community fire departments through that number as well.
And we've also got a ton of the information, and especially building kits and other resources on our website, greenvillenc.gov. We'll link you up to FEMA's website, ready.gov, a bunch of other good places. We'll have links to the county's emergency website, Red Cross, things like that. But always good to get your supply kit and your plan before you really need it, right?
Exactly.
There's nothing like 11 o'clock at night going, what? There's something hitting tomorrow morning? Well, let's run out and get our stuff.
That's right.
All right. Brock, thank you much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.